This review lesson will cover all regular Portuguese verb conjugations and participle formations. All regular Portuguese verbs have one of three endings. They are AR, ER, or IR verbs. There is an exception for the irregular verb por and its derivatives such as impor and supor. So each group of verbs have their own conjugations or verb endings, depending on the tense, mood, and subject being used. The Portuguese subject pronouns are eu, tu, ele, ela, você, o senhor, a senhora, nós, vós, eles, elas, vocês, os senhores, as senhoras. Você and tu are both singular informal versions of you, and the second person plural pronoun vos is archaic and rarely used. Você is often used to replace tu, and it almost always replaces vos due to the latter being obsolete for the most part. And the endings for the singular pronouns você, o senhor, a senhora, ele, and ela are identical, and the endings for the plural pronouns vocês, os senhores, as senhoras, eles, and elas are identical. Under the present tense, as well as the imperfect and preterite, we simply remove the infinitive ending and then add the respective endings to that stem. The present tense endings for AR verbs are o, as, a, amos, ais, am. So for the verb falar, we remove the AR ending, giving us a stem fal, and to this stem we add the respective present tense endings afterwards. Falo, falas, fala, falamos, falais, falam. The present tense endings for ER verbs o, es, e, hemos, eis, em. For the verb comer, we remove the ER ending, giving us a stem com, and to this we add the respective present tense endings. Como, comes, come, comemos, comeis, comem. And the present tense endings for IR verbs o, es, e, imus, is, em. So for the verb decidir, we remove the IR ending, giving us the stem decide, and to this we add the respective present tense endings afterwards. Decido, decides, decide, decidimos, decidis, decide. And notice that the present tense ER and IR verb endings are mostly identical, with the exception of the nos and vos endings. Under the imperfect, as well as the present and preterite, we remove the infinitive ending of the verb and then add the respective endings to that stem. The imperfect endings for AR verbs ava, avas, ava, avamos, aveis, avam. So for the verb falar, we remove the AR ending, giving us the stem fal, and to this we add the imperfect endings afterwards. Falava, falavas, falava, falavamos, falaveis, falavam. ER and IR verbs share one common set of imperfect endings. Ia, ias, ia, iamos, ieis, iam. For the verb comer, we remove the ER ending, giving us a stem com, and to this we add the respective imperfect endings. Comia, comias, comia, comiamos, comieis, comiam. For the verb decidir, we remove the IR ending, giving us a stem decide, and to this we add the respective imperfect endings. Decidia, decidias, decidia, decidiamos, decidieis, decidiam. Under the preterite, as well as the present and imperfect, we remove the infinitive ending of the verb and then add the respective endings afterwards. The preterite endings for AR verbs ei, aste, ou, amos, astes, ara. For the verb falar, we remove the AR ending, giving us the stem fal, and to this we add the respective preterite endings afterwards. Falei, falaste, falou, falamos, falastes, falara. The preterite endings for ER verbs, este, eu, hemos, estes, eram. For the verb comer, we remove the ER ending, giving us the stem com, and to this we add the respective preterite endings afterwards. Comi, comeste, comeu, comemos, comestes, comeram. The preterite endings for IR verbs, iste, eu, imos, istes, ira. For the verb decidir, we remove the IR ending, giving us the stem decide, and to this we add the respective preterite endings afterwards. Decidi, decidiste, decidiu, decidimos, decidistes, decidira. Under the future, as well as the conditional, we keep the verb in its infinitive form, and then to the end of the infinitive we add the respective future or conditional endings afterwards. All three verb groups share one common set of future endings. As, a, hemos, eis, o. For falar, we keep the verb in its infinitive form and then add the future endings afterwards. Falarei, falarás, falará, falaremos, falareis, falarão. For comer, we also simply add the respective future endings to the end of the infinitive. Comerei, comerás, comerá, comeremos, comereis, comerão. And for decidir, we again simply attach the future endings to the end of the infinitive. Decidire, decidiras, decidira, decidiremos, decidireis, decidiro. Under the conditional as well as the future, the verb is maintained in its infinitive form, and then to the end of the infinitive we add the conditional or future endings afterwards. All three verb groups share one common set of conditional endings. Ia, ias, ia, iamos, ieis, iam. For the verb falar, we simply attach the conditional endings to the end of the infinitive form of the verb. Falaria, falarias, falaria, falariamos, falarieis, falariam. For comer, we again simply attach the conditional endings to the end of the infinitive form of the verb. Comeria, comerias, comeria, comeriamos, comerieis, comeriam. And for decidir, we again simply attach the conditional endings to the end of the infinitive form of the verb. Decidiria, decidirias, decidiria, decidiriamos, decidieis, decidiria. Under the present subjunctive, we take the first person singular present tense form of the verb, we remove the o ending, and then we add the respective present subjunctive endings to that stem. Now for regular verbs, this is the same as simply removing the infinitive ending from the verb. For irregular verbs, which we will cover later, it is a little bit different. The present subjunctive endings for AR verbs are es, hemos, eis, em. And you should notice that with the exception of the eo ending, the present subjunctive endings for AR verbs are identical to the present tense ER verb endings. For falar, because it is a regular verb, we simply remove the AR ending, giving us the stem fa, and to this we add the respective present subjunctive endings afterwards. Fale, fales, fale, falemos, faleis, falem. ER and IR verbs share one common set of present subjunctive endings. A, as, a, amos, ais, a. And you should notice that with the exception of the eo ending, the present subjunctive endings for ER and IR verbs are the same as present tense AR verb endings. The verb comer is also a regular verb, so we simply remove the ER ending to give us the present subjunctive stem com, and to this we add the present subjunctive endings afterwards. Coma, comas, coma, comamos, comais, comam. And decidir is also a regular verb, so we simply remove the IR ending to obtain the present subjunctive stem decide, and to this we add the present subjunctive endings afterwards. Decide, decidas, decide, decidamos, decidais, decidam. Under the imperfect subjunctive as well as the future subjunctive, we take the second and third person plural preterite form of the verb, we remove the aram, eram, or iram ending, and to that stem we add the respective imperfect subjunctive or future subjunctive endings. Now for regular verbs, this is the same as simply removing the infinitive ending. The imperfect subjunctive endings for AR verbs: hace, haces, hace, hacemos, haceis, hacem. Falar is a regular verb, so all we have to do is remove the AR ending to obtain the imperfect subjunctive stem fal. And to this we add the imperfect subjunctive endings afterwards. Falasse, falasses, falasse, falasemos, falaseis, falasem. The imperfect subjunctive endings for ER verbs: esse, esses, esse, essemos, esseis, essem. Comer is a regular verb, so all we have to do is remove the ER ending to obtain the imperfect subjunctive stem com. And to this we add the imperfect subjunctive endings: comesse, comesses, comesse, comessemos, comesseis, comessem. The imperfect subjunctive endings for IR verbs: isse, isses, isse, issemos, isseis, issem. And decidir is also a regular verb, so all we have to do is remove the IR ending to obtain the imperfect subjunctive stem decide. And to this we add the imperfect subjunctive endings: decidisse, decigisses, decidisse, decidissemos, decigisseis, decidissem. Under the imperfect subjunctive as well as the future subjunctive, we take the second and third person plural preterite form of the verb, we remove the aram, eram, or iram ending, and to that stem we add the respective imperfect subjunctive or future subjunctive endings. Now for regular verbs, this is the same as simply removing the infinitive ending. The future subjunctive endings for AR verbs: ar, ares, ar, armos, arges, arem. Falar is a regular verb, so we just have to remove the AR ending to obtain the future subjunctive stem fal, and to this we add the future subjunctive endings afterwards: falar, falares, falar, falarmos, falarges, falarem. The future subjunctive endings for ER verbs: eres, ermos, erges, erem. Comer is a regular verb, so we just have to remove the ER ending to obtain the future subjunctive stem com, and to this stem we add the future subjunctive endings: comer, comeres, comer, comermos, comerges, comerem. The future subjunctive endings for IR verbs: ir, ires, irmos, irges, irem. Decidir is a regular verb, so we just have to remove the IR ending to obtain the future subjunctive stem decide, and to this we add the future subjunctive endings: decidir, decidires, decidir, decidirmos, decidirges, decidire. All negative commands and affirmative você, nos, and voces commands use their respective present subjunctive forms. Affirmative tu commands use their respective present tense third-person singular forms, and affirmative vos commands remove the s from their respective present tense forms. The imperative mood only applies to the subject pronouns tu, você, nos, vos, and voces. And to review, the affirmative commands for você, nos, and voces use their respective present subjunctive forms. The affirmative tu commands use their third-person singular present tense form, and affirmative vos commands remove the s from the respective present tense form. Negative commands place no before the verb to indicate negation, and again, all negative commands use their respective present subjunctive forms. So to summarize, only the affirmative tu and vos commands are not based on the present subjunctive, and vos is a mostly obsolete subject pronoun as it is, so you don't even need to worry about it all that much. Present participles for AR verbs are formed by removing the AR ending and adding ando to the stem. For ER verbs, we remove the ER ending and add endo to the stem. For IR verbs, we remove the IR ending and add indo to the stem. And there are actually no irregular present participles in Portuguese. The verb por has the present participle pondo. For the verb falar, we remove the AR ending and add ando to the stem, giving us the present participle falando. For comer, we remove the ER ending, we add endo to the stem, giving us the present participle comendo. And for decidir, we remove the IR ending, we add indo to the stem, and we obtain the present participle decidindo. To form the past participles for regular AR verbs, we remove the AR ending and add ado to the stem. For ER and IR verbs, we remove the ER or IR ending and add ido to the stem. For falar, we remove the AR ending and add ado to the stem to obtain the past participle falado. For comer, we remove the ER ending and add ido to the stem to obtain the past participle comido. And for decidir, we remove the IR ending, we add ido to the stem to obtain the past participle decidido. So that covers the review of all regular Portuguese conjugations and participle formations. I again apologize for any mispronunciations I may have, as I am not a Portuguese speaker. As I always say, I would very much appreciate it if you could please do me a favor and share this video series with your friends and teachers. And that is all for now, so until next time.